Well, hey everybody, happy Sunday. Getting ready to record Mike in the Midwest again here on a beautiful Sunday morning. So here we go. Fix this real quick. There's a new Disney commercial. All right. Line up my windows. I think we have that. Almost. All right. Temperatures to plummet. No. All right, here we go. 242. Do, 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 do. All right. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 242 of Mike in the Midwest, our mini Patreon show for the awesome members of our Patreon. I'm not starting this show the right way, but hey, happy Sunday, everybody. I hope you're having a great weekend. Thank you to all of our Patreon supporters here on Mike in the Midwest. I hope you're having a great weekend. And thank you for being here on our mini podcast called Mike in the Midwest, our adventures of me growing up here in Missouri and my thoughts on how things are going here in the Midwest. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so very much for being a Patreon supporter and allowing us to continue doing the Be Our Guest podcast in our 18th year of podcasting. Hope you always enjoy the shows, and I thank you so much for your support. We're recording this show. I'm recording this show. No we on this one. It's just me. And recording the show on Sunday morning, April 13th, 2025. In case you listen to this one down the road, you'll know when this one was recorded live, because I don't know about you, but I do go back and listen to podcasts from years and years ago. When I can't find something to listen to on the treadmill, I'll go back into the vault of some of my favorite shows. I do that with a show called You Don't Know Flack. It's just a dude that lives out in Oklahoma City, actually a suburb of Oklahoma City called Yukon. And he just talks about random topics about growing up with Commodore 64s, about how his parents owned a computer supply store in the 80s, and growing up and what it was like in the suburbs of Oklahoma City. We had a lot of the same backgrounds growing up, and so he just tells stories kind of just exactly like this show, and they're pretty evergreen. So I've heard all the shows before, but if I can't find anything to do at 5:15 in the morning when I'm running or walking on the treadmill, I'll go back and listen to a topic again. And sometimes they're recorded in 2015 or 2018. And what's funny is on his shows, he does a segment for about the first 15 minutes, kind of, he calls it loading time. It's this little, he does this little bit where he pretends that he loads the show notes for his podcast every week off of a Commodore 64 1541 drive, which if you ever used the Commodore 64 back in the day, you know that it took forever to load stuff into the memory of the computer, like games or software, applications. And so you just had to kind of sit there and listen to the thing go while everything loaded. So you play like a little sound effect. And then during loading time, while the notes were supposedly loading, he would just kind of talk and tell about, what was going on in his life, kind of like I kind of do here. And, but he always talks about like, what's happening in the world. So, this was a lot of this stuff happened pre-pandemic and, what was happening. So it's kind of funny because the first 10, 15 minutes of every show, it's so weird to hear how the world has changed. And, I enjoy that stuff. I like to go back and say, wow, technology has changed so much, right? I mean, it's neat to look back and think about how many things have changed in the span of a quick amount of time, because when you're in it, you don't realize how fast things go, right? Because it's so gradual. It's like the, what do they say with the frog that's in the pot when it's boiling? It doesn't realize it. because it's in there and it's just gradually getting heated up 1 degree at a time. But, it eventually will. It's kind of like our situation. And again, I wanted to thank you right off the bat for your Patreon support. And I'll give you a great example of why you guys are keeping the Be Our Guest podcast going after 18 years. So this week, we get bills every month to do the show. Podbean, our bill is well over a couple $100 a month to do just Podbean to support the audio show. We have the bill for the website, for the bandwidth, all that stuff. But to do the video hosting, which is how we have to connect like with Scott, Pam, Ricky, so we can have the videos, so we can do the live streams, so we can do the call-in shows. We got our bill for that. And I pay that month. I pay that on an annual plan to get a discount, because if you pay it per year, you get a little bit of a break on that. But we use a service called StreamYard for that, which is a great service. I mean, you guys can kind of tell it always works. It's what I'm using right here to do this show. Gives you HD video, works it's super stable. It lets us broadcast out into 8 different venues: YouTube, X, Facebook, Twitch. Where else do we go? We can go on to LinkedIn. Where else are we? We're on Instagram. So it's a great service, right? It works. I give them all the kudos in the world. It's a solid, great service, but they doubled their costs on us when I got my bill, and it comes due again next week. I'm going to still use it, obviously, because it's kind of the heart and soul of what we do. We cannot do the podcast without that service at this point, but that's where the Patreon money goes, and what we don't get, what I take the Patreon money and then I use what isn't covered by Patreon is what I put in. And that's just kind of, it's my hobby. So that's what I'm supposed to do. But I just wanted to let you know that's why I thank you so much for your support. We do this together, and all that money goes to the podcast. So I just want you to know that I thank you very much for allowing us to do the Be Our Guest podcast. I hope that you always get your $5 a month worth of the shows. Because, I try to put out as much content as possible. I want to give you, 4 shows a week where you get your enjoyment. I want to get you like $1 worth, so you get it. I just want to make sure you're getting a return on it. This shows just a little bit of fluff to give you just a little bit of an extra thank you for being a Patreon supporter. I know some shows do like secret shows or private shows that are based on the show itself. Like I wouldn't want to do, more Disney shows that are behind a paywall, because I'm not like, I just don't like doing that, because I was kind of a person that, if I didn't have a lot of extra income, if I was having a hard time, I'd feel bad that I'm like missing out on part of the main story, right? I don't want anybody to miss out on the main part of the Be Our Guest podcast. Nobody's ever missing anything on our show by not being a Patreon, or patron. You're not missing anything to be a part of our community by not being a patron. I'd never want that to happen. Mike in the Midwest is not having anybody be out of a club or missing anything. I mean, this is just something. If you don't hear these stories about shag carpet that I'm going to talk about today, or glass block, stuff, or lava lamps, you're not missing anything. It's kind of fun. I mean, it's just a little bit of extra. It's wacky, but I never want to paywall any part of the Be Our Guest podcast community or what we do, because I feel bad about that. So I appreciate you guys, but I just want you to know the bill came. It was shockingly large for StreamYard. But that's where the money goes. That's why we do a Patreon. And that's because you guys support us. And I thank you for continuing to support us, because that's exactly where that money goes. And it lets us keep doing the show. And 18 years, and that we'll keep doing it. I love doing the show. And that's why we don't just do, take the money and do one show a week, one show every couple of weeks. We do, consistently. I try to make sure that we always do, these 3 shows a week, and the live call-in show on Sunday nights, whenever we do it consistently as possible. And, speaking of, like, I was talking about that show, You Don't Know Flack, where the technology's changed. It's so weird, because when we started the show, I mean, there's so many changes have happened, right? Like when we did the call-in shows back in the day, I'll tell you behind the scenes here with the Be Our Guest podcast, I wanted to do a call-in show so bad, because the reason I did a podcast was because I wanted to be a radio talk show guy, Now, my dad was, if you guys know this, my dad worked in radio forever, right? He was a radio DJ on an oldie station. So he was the program director, but he also was on air. He was an on air talent. So he, spun the records and took the calls and took requests. And he was on a lot on the weekends. He did the morning show for a while, but you would, but it was an oldie station. So my friends really didn't listen to, hear my dad on the station, but you would hear him like if you're driving around town, if you listen to 103.3 KLOU, he was on a lot. So like my friends' parents would, know my dad because they would listen to him. And so I always wanted to, but I wanted to be in radio, but I didn't want to be necessarily like a DJ. But I did that on the weekends, right? Because we owned a DJ company. So I always had to play music on the weekends because that was our family business. So I was always out there, and I did it at the skating rink. I played the music at the skating rink. I did the wedding receptions. I did the prom. So I did that all the time. But what I really wanted to do was work in talk radio because I was a dorky kid that always listened to talk radio growing up on this station called KMOX, which was an AM radio station that carried the Cardinals. But other than the Cardinals, when the Cardinals weren't playing, it was a talk radio station. It was like what the old people listened to. They would talk politics. They would talk sports open line. They would talk news. And I don't know why it was just wacky. Like they had this guy named Jim White that would be on from 10 to 2 every night after the Cardinals games. And he would just have a topic and people would call in. He just called him the Big Bumper. And, I always wanted to be that guy, like to just take calls on various topics and just talk to people. Anyway, so when we started the Be Our Guest podcast, WDW Today was like the biggest podcast. I thought was like I thought it was the greatest thing ever with Matt, Len, and Mike back in the day. And they had the call-in show. And I thought that is the greatest thing ever. Not only are they a great Walt Disney World podcast, it has 3 shows a week and just great content, but they did a live call-in show once a month on Sunday nights. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like call-in radio, but for Disney geeks. And I would call in a lot. Messiah would call in from Japan. People would call in from all over the place, get to talk to the guys. Like you were starstruck when you got to talk to him. When I got to talk to him, I was starstruck. So anyway, I was like, I told my dad, I was like, God, I got to do this. Like I got to have a call-in show. I didn't know how to do a call-in show. So my dad hooked me up. Now listen to this. This is how much technology's changed. He got me so I didn't even know how to use Skype back then. Now Skype was the answer to this problem, but I didn't know it. So remember, we started the show in 2008, right? It's 2025. We started the show in 2008. So he got me a piece of hardware that we brought to our house where I did the show, our old house. Now we moved in 2019. So this is our old house. And it was a big thing that they use at a radio station that you plug your analog phone line into. And what it does is it digitizes the analog phone line into a digital signal so that you can use it on air and through your computer. And so I had this big piece of hardware. It was about, 18 inches long. It was in my it was in this rack that I had my mixing board mounted to. I had this big I had this mixing board and I had this huge thing in my old house. It was the mixer and this telephone toaster and everything. And so I used our own house phone number because we had a landline back then. And so on Sunday nights, we did a 2-hour live call-in show. I would give out our home phone number and people would call in on our home phone number. And like I had to push this one button really hard. Like when I saw the home phone number light up and just hope it was somebody calling in for the, the open line, boom. And I'd take the call on the air and it worked. It worked fine. But I was giving out my home phone number all the time, which I didn't care because I was like, I just loved it. But that's how much technology changed, right? And then once we got Skype was the greatest because then I didn't have to use this big old monster thing, which I gave back to my dad. I guess, it's not here anymore. I gave it back to my dad when we moved. And so with Skype, the coolest thing was that you could get your own phone number in any area code that you wanted. That's why we got the 407 area code number. And we got a vanity number because if you look at how our number is with 413, that's WDW. So our phone number, it's 407-413, and then it's WDW5 is how our phone number is. So it's 407-413-939. 939 is WDW, and then 5. But speaking of that, we've outlasted Skype even because Skype goes away on May 5th. Microsoft is they're sunsetting Skype. They're moving Skype into Teams on May 5th. Skype will be we're no longer going to be able to take calls on Skype. So we're going to have a new phone number starting on the show after May 5th, which will be 407-584-7173, which I will give out soon. And I have a whole new way to take calls, which, crossing my fingers, it'll work. We'll see. We'll try it again, trial and error, like we've always done here on the show. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but we'll figure it out as we go. Starting after that show, I know it will take one call. It's going to be like when there's somebody speaking to me, how that's going to work with, second and third callers coming in. So we will get through this. But the biggest thing I wanted to say off the top of the show, your Patreon support over 18 years has allowed us to keep this show going. And I just wanted to say, as always, because I don't know if I say this enough, thank you, thank you, thank you. That $5 a month means a lot. Collectively, it keeps the lights on. It keeps us paying the bills. And when I saw that bill that came in last Friday, I was like, wow, they doubled our price. But we can keep it going. We can still do this. We can definitely still do this. So we are going to make it. It's going to be fine. And I love doing the shows. I hope you guys enjoy them. I hope you guys really enjoyed the Master show on Friday. I wanted to get all four of us on that show because, for one, Scott had to be there. Scott loves golf. He's out playing golf right now. He's a big Disney dining fan. And so I was like, Scott, you got to be on the show, even though Ricky and Pam are available. And it was just fun to kind of go through the menus and do that Scotty Scheffler Masters Champion dinner kind of riff. And the reason we do shows like that, I mean, obviously it gives us a reason to kind of have a theme, but it's just a fun way to kind of explore. Maybe you could find a dish, maybe an appetizer. Maybe that gives you a reason to go over to Homecoming and check out an appetizer there, to go to Narcoossee's and check out a dessert there, to, head to. It's just a way to explore menus, but have a fun way to kind of look at it. So I appreciate it. And when you guys come over to the clubhouse and discuss those things, you don't know how happy that makes me. When I see the discussions continue on, over on the Discord channel, it makes my day. So I appreciate you all very much. All right. So I'm just going to say it's a beautiful day here in the neighborhood. It's going to be 80 and sunny in Missouri today, and it's going to be cooler tomorrow. But beautiful day today. So cannot complain. Mike in the Midwest, super happy. It's a great day to walk your dog. Riley, super happy. All right, let's hit the feedback from last week's show. Last week we talked about prom memories because Mallory had her prom, barely, because the rain stopped and the floods went away. And shout out to all the people who are having their proms, because I've seen a lot of prom pictures on the social media and everybody's looking good. So if your prom is coming up, good luck and enjoy, and hope you have beautiful weather, and keep posting those pictures. It's going to be wonderful. But here's what Dennis down in Texas had to say. I enjoyed prom when I was in high school. Like you, Mike, we saved up and rented a limo. However, we only used it to get us to prom. We parked the car at the venue and then drove home afterwards to save some money. My dates didn't really give me any instructions on the colors of the dresses, so I just went with black and white. I don't know how widespread it is now, but it seems like promposals are all the rage these days. I can't count the number of videos I've seen of elaborate and orchestrated events where the guys asks a girl to prom. I'm glad we didn't have that pressure when I was in high school. All we had to do was to build up the courage to ask someone to go. Correct. The promposals are a big deal. They are around here too. You just gotta, because like you could be anywhere. Like Pam and I could be out and you just see, oh, I think it's a promposal happening. They're a bigger deal than like somebody getting asked to get married. It's like somebody could come skydiving in, who knows? It's out of control and it's a big deal. You're right. And when I was again, like Dennis said, the good news is for me, when I was in high school, I was dating the girl for a long time. So it was just an assumption that you were going to prom with her. Like I don't think I asked. Like it was just, we've been together forever. We're going to prom. And I went to the prom with the same girl both years. So it was just, we're going. So it wasn't like I had to get up and like, are we going to prom? Because like we went to homecoming, because I don't know about you guys. We had like 3 major dances every year. We had homecoming and then we had Churnabout. I don't know if you guys had Churnabout at your high school. Some people called it Sadie Hawkins, but it was the dance where the girls asked the guys. and it wasn't as formal as on the formality scale. Obviously, prom was the most formal. Homecoming was pretty formal at our high school. Turnabout was the least formal, and it was in the spring. But it was before prom, but it was for all 4 grades. So it was like homecoming, obviously in the fall. Turnabout was it was in the like late winter. Turnabout was like in February or something, like the Sadie Hawkins dance. And then we had prom. So those were our 3 dances. And Trisha says, geez, prom expectations are crazy now. When I went, I got one dress, bright pink, with an infinite amount of tulle for both junior and senior year, and I got my hair done, which was part of a scheduled haircut. All my pictures were taken either in my family room or my boyfriend's house. I will do that much for Lorelai, but if she wants more makeup, tan, etc., she better start saving up now. That's good. Just saying that the expectations around here though are just they're crazy. I kind of feel that way and I totally understand, but I just want my kid to have what the rest of the kids have. I don't want her left out. That's why. And it is one of those things. Like she's on the cheerleading squad and all the rest of them are doing it. So I kind of feel exactly the same way, but I also don't want my kid to be the only one that's not doing it. It's a hard thing, right? It it is. So and you only get to do it, 2 times for prom, right? It's like junior, senior year. So let them have their fun. And I'll tell you what, because, as a dad, right? And Scott and I talk about this a lot. Like it's gone so dang fast. And I mean, especially high school. Like, oh my gosh, like it's a blank. High school is such a blank. Like I can't believe she's going to be a senior in just a few months. I mean, holy cow, she just started high school and it's going to be over in a year. And I I just want her to have the best memories ever. I just want to give her the best memories ever, the best experiences ever. And I just want her to enjoy the heck out of every experience she gets. I just want, it's just a want for my kids, whatever I can do. If I have to work 100 hours a week, I'll do it. Just want to have the best. All right. So and if you have feedback on prom, because we can still talk prom next week, or if you want to talk about technology that is come and gone and how it's changed for you, did you have a house line and have to fight over it and all that stuff? It is patreon.com/be our guest podcast. Let me know. Drop it in the show notes, the notes for today's show. Today, we are going to talk about some of the old 70s and 80s home decorations or trends that if I could still get away with in our house, I would totally have in our house. So the one thing that I talk about, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, the one thing that I would love to have, man, would I love to have this. And it's a prop at Walt Disney World. And you've cruised past it many times, I guarantee you. Sorry, I had to wet my whistle. Is on Spaceship Earth, there's a scene on the left-hand side. It's the Apollo 11 scene where they're landing on the moon and the family's looking at the TV. They're kind of the kids are laying on the ground on the living room floor and they're watching the TV as Apollo 11 lands on the moon. And in the back corner, there's a terrarium. It's got like kind of a white plastic base and it's got a big like globe, sphere, and it's got plants in it. Those were popular in the 70s, like late 60s and early 70s. I would love to have one of those terrariums in my living room. And I remember that my mom's best friend, so my mom had a best friend named Kay, that she was actually a teacher at my school when I was like in kindergarten. And we used to obviously go over to her house a lot because it was my mom's best friend. And she had a very, I guess, 70s house because it was the 70s. And I remember she had one of these in her house. And I was like obsessed with it as a little kid because I was like a little nerdy kid because like a little, dorky kid. But she had like ferns in it and stuff. And I think she had like little amphibians in it. I think she told like, she's like, look, there's like a little salamander in there or something. And like ever since, God, I'm 50 years old now, and I still want to have like my own little ecosystem that's self-contained inside of a terrarium in my living room. That's, like a little rainforest that's self-sustaining. That you got, ferns and little salamanders, and you got a little, really good water coming down the sides because it's got its own humidity. It's its own biosphere. So I would love for that to come back. I love like just little things like that. Like that was so cool. Well, I don't know. Things come and go. I get it. So I'm just gonna talk about a few things like looks that were like that have come and gone, but especially 70s and 80s things. Another thing, and I was talking to Andrea about this I was talking to her last night over email. She booked a couple of trips for the summer with that great Disney Plus deal, which man, she got some steals on that. And I love it. But wall carpet. Now you're like, dude, what are you talking about? Wall carpet. You can still find wall carpet around Walt Disney World. Epcot still has it. I think in Coral Reef, there's still some wall carpet. There's still some wall carpet in the land. I think over by Awesome Planet, there's some wall carpet. You got to look around. You can find it. And I'm not saying you would have wall carpet in your living room because that would be a little bit weird. But like wall carpet in your like basement rec room. How about that? Like I just think it's like it's wacky, but I think it's so wacky that it could find a place like in a rec room in a basement. I like it. It's retro. I think that'd be fun. Another thing that I've had back here for a long time that I think should really make another run, lava lamps. Lava lamps. They're cool. They're peaceful, right? And not just as a novelty item. Sometimes you see them at those places like Five Below. I got this one on Amazon just because I've always wanted. I just think that they just have a vibe. They're chill, and I like to have it behind me because hopefully, if you're watching the show, it does kind of give a exude, just chillness. That it's like a little moment of zen. But I think those should come back. And also, Andrea down in Florida last night, she said to remind you of, she said they have these at Mama Melrose, but they have back in the day, they had these like fountains that would be in living rooms, kind of like oil, like waterish fountains. And I remember those. I'm trying to think where I saw them though. They were kind of, they were like, I'll try to put a picture somewhere on Instagram or somewhere, but they had like they were like cascading water fountains from like the 70s or 80s, and they even made a sound. They're kind of like oriental sounding things, but they were really kind of zen too. Like those were kind of cool. Another thing that I was thinking that I saw these more in the 80s is because we had them at my house and my grandparents had them, and then I haven't seen them ever again. And I don't know, because I mean, obviously they're more popular overseas, but cuckoo clocks. We had a cuckoo clock at our house growing up in the late 80s, and my grandparents had a cuckoo clock. And I know a lot of my friends had cuckoo clocks at the time. I don't know if it was I think it was like a late 80s thing, but I haven't seen a cuckoo clock in forever. But I thought it was pretty cool, like the mechanics of it, right? How mechanically it would come out, little bird would come out, cuckoo, cuckoo, and then go right back in. I don't know. I thought that was kind of fun. Maybe it was because like international travel was starting to become a thing in the late 80s, more of like than it was. And so people would bring those back from Europe to kind of show off their wealth. I don't know, but I thought that was kind of a cool thing. Now, here's one thing. Those are all things I wish would come back. One thing that I wish wouldn't, and that we had prevalent in my house growing up in my kitchen. My mom did this thing with cows. I think it was cows and ducks in our kitchen growing up. They were like, so we had what was called the country kitchen growing up for a while. I don't know if you had this. Now, again, I'm Mike in the Midwest. This is a Midwestern kitchen. Our kitchen, so let me tell you. So I've told you this on the show. I lived in one house until 6th grade, and then we built a new house. The summer I went from 6th grade to 7th grade. We built a new house, and then I lived in that house from 7th grade on until I moved out. In the new house, my mom made this, and we had like an open kitchen that went into the great room. And my mom decorated that new kitchen that was a little bit bigger with like these, and this was a popular thing at the time. Like it was the new thing at that time, which was like 1987. It was like these ducks that were like light blue, like everywhere. These ducks and like cows. I think there were cows too, but it was mostly ducks. And it was this country kitchen thing. And like, my mom was obsessed with ducks. And these like on they were like on plates, and she had them on the wall. God, please don't bring those back. It was a tragedy. It was terrible. So don't bring those back. I'm trying to think what else that I would bring back. Now, here's another thing. I don't know if you've ever done this. It's kind of like a tangent, but this whole show is basically a tangent, just me talking. Have you ever like gone back? So my cousins, which I love down in Poplar Bluff, Missouri, I kind of, grew up with them. There's two boys, Chris and Derek. They're as close to brothers as I ever had because I never had a brother. And we would visit them 2 or 3 times a year. They'd come up for Christmas, and I get to go down there every once in a while to their house. And they lived in, like I said, in Poplar Bluff, which is down by the Arkansas border. And so they lived in a very rural area of Missouri. And so I lived in a suburban area, so when I went down there, it was like the country, right? And they grew up like country kids. Like they had four-wheelers, they hunted. They grew up way different than I did. I grew up like a city kid. They grew up like, country kids. So when we went down there to play, dude, it was awesome. Like their backyard was the woods. And it's like, instead of riding bikes, we get on their three-wheelers. And I never got to ride a three-wheeler. So when I got to ride a three-wheeler, I was like, God, this is awesome. Like we get on this thing and just like fly. So, but they had this cool, like rustic house. It was like, it was just awesome. It had a deck all like 3/4 of the way around. It had this deck, and it was like all like made out of these big boulder looking rocks around it, and had a huge fireplace inside, shag carpet. Um, it was just so cool. And it had like a sunken kind of living room situation. And my cousin Chris had like a race car bed, and like his lamp in his bedroom was like a racing helmet. I mean, it was like the bomb. That house was so cool. It's so cool, in fact, and I don't know if you've ever done this. I've actually gone on Google Maps and like looked to see if like that, is the house still there? Because it sat right off the kind of the dual highway down in Poplar Bluff. Like it was right as you came into town. And like, I'm like, dude, should I buy that house and move to Poplar Bluff? Because my uncle doesn't live in it anymore. My aunts passed away. My cousins obviously don't live in it anymore. They all have their own houses. But like, I love that house so much as a kid. I'm like, I should buy that house and move to Poplar Bluff. That's so weird. It's so weird. I should not do that. But that house was like so cool because it had like the house itself was like so cool. And it probably had a million problems with it, right? But is it, because I only remember it from like 10-year-old Mike Rallman with not a care in the world, just riding three-wheelers and four-wheelers and shooting BB guns and just living my best life as a city kid out in the country, for a few days at a time. But I just remember it was like the coolest. But I have like looked on Google Earth and it's there. And I'm just wondering like, what's the status of that house? Like, could I buy it? Because when I want to escape the city and like become a country person, if I ever want to, which I don't know if I could ever handle that because, I need my Taco Bell across the street, my Chick-fil-A, and my Target pickup orders when I got to go get my Coke Zeros. And, Riley needs her dog food. And I just need them to throw it in the back of the Jeep. I don't know if I could handle, being out in the country, but it's those kind of memories of the past. But that house was definitely, and it probably doesn't even look like that anymore on the inside, right? But that house had the 70's look. It had the shag carpet. It was like orange and brown, and the rock like interior and exterior. It looked very like it was rustic. But I mean, it was also surrounded by trees. It was out in the country, which was perfect. I mean, it made me feel like I was going to a lodge when I was a kid. Anyway, so those are just some of the things I was thinking about today as far as looks that I might like to bring back. My grandma always had too. And I've seen like a meme on social media. And I don't know if you guys had these, but my grandma did. Did you guys have the big wooden fork and spoon hanging in your kitchen? Like that were like 2 feet tall? My grandma did. We had them. I mean, no doubt. And I don't know whatever happened to them when they passed. When my grandma and grandpa passed and they sold the house. I should ask my dad. But man, I've seen it the exact same ones as like memes that like everybody had these in their kitchen at some point. Yeah, my grandma and grandpa did. It was a big wooden fork and a big wooden spoon. Again, like 2 feet tall. They were just hanging on the wall right there, proud as anything. We had them. So, what were some of the things that if you could get, now see, my wife, she would never let me have any of these things. Like the terrarium, I might be able to get away with it if I could get one here in the office. Like as long as I could close the door, and she never comes downstairs hardly unless like to play pool every once in a while. But she might let me have it here in my office. That'd be the only place I get away with the terrarium. But I doubt it. But what would you like? What is something from like the 70's, 80's aesthetic that you would like to bring back? Or maybe that you have incorporated into your house? Maybe you got lucky that you still have. Do you have shag carpet? Do you have like avocado appliances in your kitchen? Admit it. Let me know. Hope you're having a great weekend, guys. Glad we got to share some time together. Hey, live call-in show tonight. Scott's not going to be there because he's going to a concert with Emily. She's playing her last jazz concert of her high school career. So he's got to be there. I mean, it's dad duty, right? And I can't imagine the emotions that he's going to be feeling. So I'm proud of him and proud of Emily. So he'll be at that. So I'll need your calls. So join me tonight, 7:00 Eastern, 6:00 Central. We'll be talking Disney. So until then, you guys have a great Sunday. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon. Happy birthday, Margie. Have a good one tomorrow. All right. See you guys later.